Can you guys hear me okay? I'm not hearing any audio from you guys.
Maybe, or
They've been around a while.
Can you hear us now, Brandon?
Yep, now I can hear you.
if we wanted to, as a group, if we were to, like Citizen Day in the Park, we could get with her and have a box of them available there for any of the kids that wanted to.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they're still in good shape and they're all plastic wrapped and everything, so they're not all.
Yeah, no, that's a great.
So to go back to that, it was a special account.
Right.
It was bike and pedestrian,
Yes.
and it was used mostly for bike helmets.
Yes.
Okay. And since we were apparently muted, we should re-vote. We should restate our vote on.
Oh, for the meeting minutes. Okay, so,
Make a motion to approve the minutes from last month.
okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Perfect, thank you.
Deja vu.
Thank you. Okay, so in regards to the account, what are you looking for? You looking to see if it's still open and
I
if
mean, it's still open, there's money in there. I mean, I would just, it's money that we raised as a group, so we could use it to purchase more helmets, or if it sounds like if we have enough helmets, we could use it for something else. I suppose, I guess, I don't know how that works. It's been designated to purchase helmets. I think we sold some bicycles that was, that the city had. We had sold a bunch that was over in that building over there one time, and I think
It's
there
got a lot
was
of donations
a
too.
police car that we auctioned off or something to get raise some of the money, right? And we used to do some Burgerville events, as a group, and would, earn a couple $100 and that's where the
I've
money.
never heard that we actually got used police cars from the city. And
Yeah.
picked them up and sold them and got them.
that's really bad.
Yeah, that was a few years ago.
How,
You know what year?
Gosh, that would have been probably like 14 or 15 or.
it's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a way to find out if the account is still there or active and acquired?
There you go. They'll be like, what?
Okay. All right, and then I guess once we find out if it's there and if there's any money in it, then we can discuss what you'd like to do with that. All right.
Cause they use some of that for didn't they buy safety reflectors?
Yeah, I bought some reflectors.
Bicycle orientated.
Okay.
How long is the account been dormant?
I don't know if it's been, I'd have to go back and look. I was the one that usually placed the order with the company we bought the helmets from, so I could find out when our last order was, but it's probably been 6, 7, 8 years or something.
Close the account and put it into the general fund for,
Yeah.
to go through.
So somebody probably would have said, it's possible that it was cleared out, that we used all the money too.
Well, if it's dormant, they would take that money after such a long period and put it into a big collection of money that you can claim your money from.
Oh, yeah,
That's the way they work it typically.
Okay.
All right, well, we can check into that. If that's good, let's talk about the fire prevention.
Yeah, so probably most of you are aware that we had a fire down at McCormick Park at the BMX track here recently.
No,
So, oh, you didn't?
no.
Yeah, so there was a brush fire that was started down there. I don't know, they never probably found out exactly what started it, but it was probably wasn't, probably accidental, but it was.
Accidental human cause.
Yeah, human cause. But anyways, and it did reach, one of the structures that is on the facility of the BMX track and just kind of charred the one side of it or whatever, and then. By the fire department probably did more damage, busted into the building with their chainsaws and. It's like, seriously, they stuck a chainsaw right in.
It's repaired, painted,
Yeah.
electrical's all fixed, it's.
Yeah, I know, thank you, that was pretty quick, I didn't think they were gonna get it done that quick, but, yeah, it looks nice, I mean, it's all fixed, it's up and running, everything's fine. But it got me thinking, we've never talked about it as a group, and as, Maui and these other, forest fires and things that are happening. I don't know that that us as a group have really ever discussed, like what sort of preventative measures does the city have in terms of in their parks? Because, my thought was, had we had we cleared some of that brush back away from that structure, may have, you know, and had a kind of a zone around it. They talk about that zone around your house, you know, the 3 to 5 feet and 5 to 20 or whatever, you know, around your place. And so I'm sure it's something that's the city deal is probably, you know, has in a plan in place or whatever, but. You know, as I think about the structure we've got down below, there's big old trees and branches hanging over it, you know, I mean, if one of those trees catch on fire, well. It's only a few feet away and it's gonna spark a fire and ignite one of the buildings. And so then I started thinking, well, throughout our parks system, you know, what does some of the other structures look like in terms of, you know, or is brush cleared around, you know, within a certain zone around those? I'm sure it's probably something you guys. You know, with.
And I think
But that was, it was just a concern. I wanted to make it aware. I mean, it made me aware of it when this happened, because when it happened, somebody called me, I was like freaking out, you know, they lump in my throat, cause I'm like, they made it a lot worse than what it was. It could have been much worse, but I was just thinking, envisioning driving down there and seeing buildings engulfed in flames, you know, and nobody wants to see that happen to any
About
of
an
our,
acre or something got it, or
any of our, what's that?
about an acre or something, couple hundred yards.
No.
I was out to this room.
Oh, okay, okay.
They had to have gotten there pretty quick, apparently, you know, but you know, it could have burnt that whole corner. It could have burnt the whole corner of McCormick Park down if it wanted to, but it, you know,
Wood right now with this wind.
Yeah.
so,
It's bone dry, and to kind of reflect on what you're saying. Is luckily, a lot of our structures are where we have irrigation, so the grass, at least on a side or two, is usually green. But like where your stuff is located, we try to keep, you know, it kind of mowed down, but a lot of people really want that to stay a natural state, and natural state gets dangerous. And now it's so dry, because we did just have this discussion, and I think it's because it popped into my head because I saw it on the agenda, but now it's scary to try to mow.
Right.
Because if we make a spark with a rock, boom, we lit our own fire.
Yeah.
We've done it in the past, so. Yeah, a lot of our buildings are fairly safe because it's short mowed and it is irrigated, but like where you are is extremely dry right now. And that whole corner of 18th Street and an OPR is a tinder box. I mean, it wouldn't take nothing to get that going.
Do you guys have a specific perimeter around the buildings that you guys have that you keep clear from foliage or brush?
I don't know that it's like an SOP or something that's a standard. It's
Yeah.
usually just keep clear for the buildings to prevent damage to the buildings, and then, you know, there is some thought for fire breaks and fire lines. Usually around buildings, things are pretty clear unless you're in an area like you're in there, and if we go in and weed eat that down. We had so many complaints or try to get the limbs up higher, and
Yeah.
people want that trail to be natural, but there's people that don't too, so it's kind of a mix.
well, yeah, I mean, it kind of made me think about, at least for that building down the lower one, there's some trees around there that. It'd be nice to just take them down. That would make things a little safer in terms of if there was a fire, but I don't know how big of a zone. I don't know if that's something that can be looked at or.
There is some dead trees that are gonna be removed out of there just for safety factors,
and-
and that will help you a bit, I believe.
And if things are limbed up too, then it hopefully would help keeping something from crowning.
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking, like if we can extend the perimeter around just the buildings themselves and then trim the trees just around the buildings themselves to.
I'm all for that,
To-
yeah.
And also think about hardy plank if we ever have to do any residing, because isn't hardy plank more fire resistant than plywood?
We've done a lot of replacing all of our roofs with steel lately too, which that was.
Yeah, it's just definitely certainly a concern. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of what had happened down there and just hopefully, it's kind of a wake up call, especially seeing what's happened over in Hawaii, and it could happen, anywhere, especially right now with this wind and
Yeah.
dry it is.
Scary time.
I also wonder too, over the years, if, especially like in the woods and stuff, they'll put up like a flame red sign that says, in extreme fire danger.
Yeah,
If we continue with this, I'm wondering if we shouldn't have signs at some of the parks going in, just really reminding people like how hazardous it is to walk in there with a cigarette.
Post like a bright sign, say like at the kiosk where you go into McCormick Park.
Uh-huh.
It says dusk to dawn. You could we could get some sort of a bright sign that kind of draws your eye to it, that says extreme fire danger,
Yeah,
something of that sort. That's a good
that
idea.
would be
It'd
great.
be easy to post.
Just to remind people, I mean,
Yeah.
especially in like some of our nature parks.
Believe it or not, most people that smoke in our parks, even though they're not
Yes.
supposed to.
Oh, yeah. It's unnerving.
Well, yeah, I would love to see, like a good perimeter around both with the tree limbs and with the foliage. So is that something that we could just request that you do, or is that something we have to make official
Well,
regarding?
I think it's something you could just request that my crew does and. Like I said, with the fire danger being where it is right now, it's probably not gonna happen until we get some rain,
Correct.
but in the future.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And I trust that you guys are, prudent to those matters
Right.
and I trust your opinion on what is a safe perimeter to.
There might be a standard out there too. I can look it up online. I'm not sure what it is.
Okay.
Or the forestry department might make a recommendation, so that's someone I can contact, find out too.
That would be great. Awesome. Anything else on the fire there or so you can move it on? Okay, so let's talk about the bicycle lane.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious, there's a bicycle lane that just kind of like ends on Gable Road, and I think it ends because it's the railroad tracks and then you're supposed to jump over and hop on the bike, on the sidewalk apparently, or whatever, but I don't know if that's city's lane that we paint. I would assume it's on Gable Road.
It's been years.
County.
You're talking about on this,
Until, can't remember how many feet it is, but it's back from the tracks and that is all ODOT and railroad.
and they haven't restriped that in years.
ODOT putting in torch downs last year.
Yeah, but the vice or the white shoulder line is totally gone to that area that used to. be
Yeah, because
there,
everyone uses it as a turn lane when it's like,
Which it is an illegal turn lane and
it's, I've got the sign back up. The sign was down for almost a year.
is there a way to get the city to repaint the shoulder line? So at least some people may think about that it's not a lane.
Yeah, we can. They kind of frown upon us being in their area. They're pretty
So
sensitive.
just ask the state to do it,
We can request them and let them know it's a safety issue and
That's
They're
it.
in the stretch through the railroad tracks is ODOT, huh?
it's either ODOT or railroad. But last time I saw them do maintenance on striping and torch downs, it was ODOT.
I remember Saleh commenting about that once there was an accident there. He said it was unbelievable how many people drive up that area.
Well, everybody uses it as a turn lane. It's gonna get worse with the apartments there.
Yeah.
Okay,
Now, the other thing that we were talking about bike lanes for a moment is that across the street from all that stuff. With the construction going on, you basically don't have a bike lane on that side of the road anymore. And I've noticed that on the other side of the street from there. That they did a ditch at one point with that construction, they narrowed the bike lane, and there's one spot where a bunch of people are parking now that work there. And there's a cut about 4 inches deep that goes this far into what is the bike lane. And never got filled, which is a real hazardous, he's riding a bicycle in there.
Yeah.
But pay attention, it'd be great if we could get that filled, just so at least it's a solid thing and we don't have to worry.
We're talking where the construction guys are parking,
Yeah, just after when you're going towards the waterfront, just past Walmart.
right, on the Walmart side, there's like 4 or 5 trucks been parking there recently.
Yeah, and some cars, but if you look, like I say, there's a triangle that goes into the bike trail about this far, that's down about this deep.
Take a look at that. That's not gonna be a big deal.
Yeah, that's simple fix.
awesome. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss regarding the bicycle lanes?
That's it.
Okay, awesome. All right, do you have anything to update on Sand Island?
No, I don't, I didn't even realize it until I saw it on the agenda and I just, no way to get out there.
That's okay. You, I just had it.
Is that you two that's on the same? You guys were saying no. I thought it was two that's on the island.
I mean, but
Sand Island, I have Jake and Howard.
Okay. So, yeah, we haven't.
Sergeant Davis said he's gonna do it.
Did he?
He's not there.
Right.
Dick said he's.
Okay, so, that's all right. Just as a reminder for next month, for the, parks, it should be, the BMX and skate park, and then McCormick Park, including the Japanese gardens. And so those will be what our updates will be for September. All right, so I'll give you guys a month to prep for that. All right, moving on to old business then. As far as city council and planning commission meeting updates. Last month we had signed, attending some of the meetings. I don't have anything to report back from the city council meeting that I attended. And I didn't receive any emails or anything from anyone else. And so, the note that I
The only thing is, if we're grazing that here, I would like to give out a shout out to Patrick Burkle for all his service that he gave in support of the Parks Department since he
absolutely
recently resigned. I would like to say thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick.
was amazing, absolutely.
I did bring up one thing when we had that meeting that we both attended.
Yes,
We were talking about security
yes,
at Columbia View Park.
yes.
That could be something that might need to be talked about in the future.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that evolves, especially this upcoming season. And so I actually made a couple of notes about security in regards
Three
to,
festivals or
yeah,
Well, it's been the security at 13 nights now because of what happened on the first night of the 13 nights.
yeah. And so that's,
And now they have a police presence.
so that's,
rowdy people or something.
It's,
yeah, kids and adults
Mhm.
fighting actually. Yeah, so I made a note of that because that's actually something that's in the special use permits. And so I wanted to talk about that during that time. And then Jake called and updated me the meeting that he attended. There was nothing for the parks. And so he did attend, but didn't have anything to report back. And anything that you noticed, Howard, from did you attend the 8 to 7 PM? No, okay. All right, and did you attend the planning commission on the 11th? That's fine.
and this is,
Right with you, yeah, that's okay. But I really appreciate everyone who did spend time attending these meetings. I think it's super important for communication and consistency's sake to just stay abreast of what's going on with our other commissions. And so that brings us into the liaison schedule for this upcoming month. And so are all of the meetings online for the next, between now and the next one?
It's up to each
It's up to each one.
committee to post their meetings. So
Their meetings. Do you,
actually, are you talking about as far as on the city website?
yeah,
That might be, I'm not sure who. I guess.
It's the-
City website?
Yeah,
It's,
probably either Lisa or Kathy.
Kathy.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if the dates are on there, or if you know the dates, so that we can assign,
from here on forward,
yeah, between here and our next meeting. Oh, here we are.
we'll take the work session.
The work session. So we have, what's today, the 14th? So then the next city council is 8/16, the 2 PM and the 7 PM.
Yeah,
City council,
I'll try doing the 7 PM. That'd be tomorrow night, wouldn't it?
16th, that's going to be Wednesday night.
Yeah.
For 8/16, so Scott, you will do the 2 PM.
I will.
Thank you so much. And Howard, you'll do the 7 PM. Thank you so much. And then the next meeting will be,
Is I'm planning tomorrow,
Planning Commission.
should be tomorrow night.
No,
Where did they
theirs,
have it?
theirs was 8/8.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah, so I guess we,
Second Tuesday.
usually we follow it, they follow us. but
right,
Since,
they follow us next month.
yeah.
So we skip that one.
The month started
Oh, they're not having a meeting tomorrow night then?
No, it was last week.
last week because the way it's all set up, the following Tuesday.
Oh,
Started with
and the date, okay.
So then the other one will be the city council meeting on 9/6. So. Who would like to volunteer to sit in on those ones?
Last time.
Yeah, I can do either the 2 PM or the 7 PM, whichever one is not covered.
I can do the 7 P.M. I
The
guess.
7 PM, okay.
I'll be here.
Okay, so then I'll do the 2 PM. Wonderful. And that'll get us covered through this next month. And again, it's just reporting back anything that you hear or see that you think is relating specifically to the parks or something that should just be on our radar that we can either discuss or, bring back to city council if we have opinions about it, right? And that way we're all on the same page. We don't feel like we're missing anything. It's just good overall communication. And then our next meeting is 9/11 and we will plan out for the month after that. Does this work okay for you guys assigning at our meetings for the upcoming month? Does that work out well?
Let's keep on, continue with it. If we
Ryan?
can do it.
Cool.
Well, then we can do it.
Awesome. All right. So then, moving on to the special use permits. Did everyone have a chance to review through the rest of the packet on your days off? Okay, so my hope was that y'all had time to sit with it so that we didn't have to go through each item specifically, and we could just bring, as we move through it, just bring forward anything that we felt needed to be commented on or and again, for this discussion, we're bringing notes forward that at a meeting where all of us are together, if we feel there's something that we want to request change, that we can have a further discussion then and make recommendations. So I don't really plan on making recommendations. This meeting is more putting together a more thorough discussion for the next meeting. So we left off at the 8.08.080 characteristics of the permit.
Which page?
They're not numbered,
They're not-
not too far.
What was the number we're?
This one right.
808.
Yeah, the new packet.
Yeah.
Isn't there? And I found this third page, fourth page, it starts, because it started where we left off. Just after.
The title is characteristics of permit. Okay. So moving on to the next, which is inspection. I didn't see anything there. This is all pretty standard. So this page that has inspection, revocation of permit, indemnity, appeal.
I was thinking about the indemnity that, whether there could be. The city has a standard indemnity insurance that they can go to, that people have to pay in, rather than have everybody, That would shut down quick. It's just a thought.
We don't want to be the applicant's insurance provider.
Right.
Yeah, but I was just thinking that, if you could have. The insurance company that, typically takes on that, so it could be somewhat standardized instead of having everybody running
The
around.
insurance that usually takes on that is usually the applicants, either renters or homeowners insurance. And
I did not know that.
they have, it's called an event insurance and they just.
Yeah.
All right, does anyone have any questions, comments, or anything to address on this page? Okay, if not, we can move on to the next one, which is offenses. And, the only question I had here is in section number 3, where it says that no person while in a city park or upon public property may operate a concession, either fixed or mobile, or engage in business, soliciting, selling, or peddling any liquid consumption, or distribute particulars, or box settle, or vend any goods, wares, or merchandise without permission of the city administrator. And later in the pack, it also talks about receiving a vendor application. And so would you be able to send out that vendor application? Is that something that or is that totally separate?
Completely separate.
Okay, perfect.
I had a couple, something before that with the signs and all that.
Okay.
One time at Columbia View for 13 nights. We had a sign for a political candidate and we talked to Tina about it. She said you're being charged for it.
They being charged for,
For putting the sign up. That's what Tina told me.
Advertising a public candidate.
so,
On public land.
so that she was being charged for putting the sign up.
No, the person who had put the sign up was being charged to be for the ability to put sign up. It was somebody's running for sheriff
Okay,
and it was on there and then I asked her about it. She said they paid for that,
okay.
to be able to put that up.
Mhm.
We don't, where does that come from? I don't know anything about it.
Didn't know that was legal.
Yeah, that was illegal.
I would question that. I would ask about that one, because otherwise. They would be putting them up all the time in our public areas, because
Right.
there's a lot of
I was
space.
not aware that was allowed.
I saw later that you can with permission put up like temporary signs for the events, but you can't put up any permanent signs.
Well, it wasn't a permanent sign, it was, just some thing draped over the back fence. But I mean, it was for a political candidate. For,
I didn't
Was
see,
it during one of Tina's events?
excuse me,
Was it during one of Tina's events?
it was during 13 nights.
I would think political thing.
And I did ask her about it.
Oh, it's in bad.
We were being charged for the ability to put that up.
So like they were a sponsor.
Well, it couldn't be a sponsor if they're,
They were paying.
yeah, because it does say that you can put up temporary signs. It doesn't, I didn't see anything in there specifying that it had to be, that it couldn't be political in nature. I didn't see any verbiage on that when I read through. But it does say you can put up the temporary signage, especially with approval from the city administrator. And so if it's something that they got approval on in that particular case, I didn't see anything in here that said that couldn't happen.
In the rules, when you run for office, you're given, there's rules about where you can put signs, what size they can be. And if I remember right, it specifically states in there you cannot have them on city property, city parks, anything like that.
Okay,
The city park rules say no,
Yeah.
no political signs, okay. So then, yeah, so that is something that would need to be, I guess, addressed during either the application process or during the event. And there is language in here that talks about, if they're violating rules, that it can be addressed and either taken down or removed.
well, I mean, I have the question about, if the political sign in a public space and also if, as Tina told me that they're being charged to put that sign up there. I mean, where does that money go? And would it be available to the parks, if it was
Yeah.
being utilized like that?
So say the situation happened again, right? Who would we, I guess, report that to or question on why it, like, so if political signs aren't allowed to be up at all, right, in the park, so who would we report that to?
Would you
yes, you could report it to me and then I would have to look into it, but it's something I'll have to ask John Walsh about it and see if there is anything in the code of ethics or anything like that that
Okay.
exists. And yeah, just basically research it now that
Yeah.
brought to my attention. I didn't know it ever happened, so.
Yeah,
That'll
just give us direction moving forward, you know, brings our attention to it, so that we can be aware, and having a plan in place is really great, and then too, we can, you know, if it's not allowed, prevent it in the future. If it does happen, then we can investigate who's charging for it, where is that money going to, et cetera, and follow that line. So thank you for bringing that up. Okay, any other questions, comments on this page? No, we can move.
I also had issues with the car park at Columbia View, people parking their car. Yeah, I've been other cars out there now, I mean, picked up cars for some reason, I don't know what the deal is out there. But last year we had somebody park out there and wouldn't move. He wasn't allowed to be parked, because you can't park out there. But at Columbia View Park during 13 nights. Last year,
Okay. What do you mean down below? Somebody was parked?
somebody parked below and you know, by the paved walkway up over there.
Oh, the waterfront area?
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, by the stage, it wasn't the band or anything, because I talked to Tina about that too.
I think Tina's towed people before.
Excuse me?
Tina's towed people before, at least threatened, because she was like, I'll just tow them. if they don't
Yeah.
wanna do it." And she has, I believe, her signage says that
that they can be
you will
towed.
be towed if they're not out of there by a certain date, so, and it is pretty clearly posted.
Well, this is during the, you know, concert too.
I think you're talking about down below. They came in from the courthouse parking lot where there probably isn't any signs.
No, I think it was on the other side. This one was on the other side, this, at least the stage.
Huh.
But there's also, cars parked there, have been parked there this year, you know, the race cars and that type of stuff. I'm not sure what that's all about either.
Is it like during one of the car show events or like the,
During 13 nights.
Yeah, they have a group of race cars and stuff that park on the back edge of the town.
okay, is that part of the event or is that just private
Yeah, that
persons?
must be part of the event, I would imagine. It's talking about the races over at River City
Oh,
Raceways, isn't it? What's there now this year?
I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
And they set up a little table with an information booth.
Okay, so kind of like one of the vendors,
Yeah.
okay.
Would that be part of the permitting process then?
Yeah, so that may be included in that permit, and I haven't looked at any of the specific permits or anything like that, so. All right, do you have any other questions there?
Possibly clarification eventually. And just looking down there where the fences, see dogs being licensed at City Hall. City doesn't license dogs anymore. So they can clean that up eventually.
Yeah, so we can mark that as where is that, that's in 8.
808, where it says offenses,
130
talks about 3 varieties of dogs.
Yeah.
that
Dog seed.
is, okay, so section 4. C.
Yeah.
Subsection C, section 4. We can recommend that be removed. Okay, perfect. We can recommend removing that because it's erroneous at this point. To there. Okay, great. All right, then the next page is penalties and additional remedy. Any questions or comments on this page? Moving on, the next page is just the letter that they sent out that and I'm assuming I don't wanna assume, is this a letter that you send out, say you get word that there's an event planned, but they haven't applied?
This is a template letter that I send out.
Okay,
That I made up that I sent out, if I hear of an event that's not. Or that I believe does not have a permit before. I have sent it out before. And I have heard that, oh no, you're under so and so.
okay.
49 people.
It's always 49. Of course it is. Okay, and that's pretty standard. That looks great. Do you guys have any questions or comments on that? No? Okay. So the next one would be the application process for the special use permit. I just highlighted to discuss if you guys wanted to, the incomplete applications or applications received under 30 days will not be accepted. As they have a 45-day requirement for the application process.
Yeah, it's because it takes a minimum of 2 weeks to turn things around. And anything under than that, not only is it too much of a rush to get things turned around, it sometimes is not enough to get the roof out for an event. I'm actually working with 2 right now that were just at that, and I went ahead and let them squeak under. And sure enough, they're not giving me their insurance information. I mean, it was just a mess, and so it's easier to just
Yeah.
make them follow the rules.
Absolutely. And I am all for abiding by the rules, as long as the rules are fair and appropriate, right?
And it's the same for everybody.
And the same for everybody, 100%. And so,
This was just a little, like, kid's birthday party with 50 people. This was not, if it's a huge event.
Yeah.
They really need to be even above and beyond.
yeah, absolutely.
You'd be surprised how even these small events just cannot get their stuff together.
Sure. Okay, do you guys have any questions, comments, or anything on this first page here? Nope. Okay, so we can move on to the next page, which is,
Just 1 second. It does have Hudson payment receipts. Seems like Hudson's is always quoted in this, not quoted, but referred to on the whole thing. So I just wonder about, we're talking liability, like insurance, wouldn't that also be liability to the city if they were referring them to Hudson's for these types of porta potties or anything like that?
They're the only one that's
That came up.
service in the city though.
Yeah, but I mean, they could go out with the city.
Yeah, that came up when we were going
That
through
did.
it, and that was, the conclusion was monopoly in the area.
Yeah, that did come up when we were thinking about this. You're right. If are we
I'm not sure we need a company, another company
advertising
on our.
inappropriate,
yeah.
but they're the only ones that do garbage in city, so.
So I guess that is something that we could request, that they go through and change throughout the application and remove the name Hudson and just put, garbage service provider.
And then they're gonna call me and say, who do I call? And then I have to tell them, so
Right,
it's literally extra steps and
Yeah.
confusion for somebody.
Most people will come to the conclusion that they're just gonna call Hudson after all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
I didn't personally see an issue with that because I do understand that they're the only ones here. I can understand how it could be perceived as advertising.
Well, I was just pointing it out.
And we noticed that as well,
Mhm.
but if they're literally the only ones, then why are we pretending?
There is also one other area where it says estimated attendance, and I really want to say, I think that always needs to be an important area to be filled out, because how do we know how to plan for an event? Or control what could go on in a city park?
One of the biggest things about the whole permit. Is
Right.
knowing what's coming.
Yeah,
Right.
knowing how many people, so it's really
Is
important.
that on this page or the next page?
It's right here on this page, section. Section 2. Yeah, location, event information.
Oh, I think you're on the next page.
Oh, am I?
Yeah, we're on the page.
I thought you were on this one, you.
No, not yet, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, because we were talking about,
Sorry.
no, that's okay. So we can move on to that though, because I also have that section highlighted.
Mhm.
And I had a couple of questions as well. And so estimated attendance is really important for me. In my opinion, is or for us, in my opinion, because that greatly impacts other aspects of the application process, including how many restroom the porta potties are required. And then I also had a question in regards to if occupying multiple areas, do we require an application for each area? So say an event is occupying both the Columbia View Park and also Nob Hill Park, right? Do we require a special use permit for each of those areas? Or do we lump them in together if they're occupying multiple?
If it's one event,
Mhm,
it's one application,
mhm.
but we would notate all of the areas that
Okay.
they're occupying.
Okay, and then, so when that comes to
I
the,
was gonna say that, I don't know how much that happens, so,
right, well, it does happen like during Halloween
Sure.
Town.
well,
right?
that's, yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of those things, that I'm kind of keeping in mind as I'm going through this, like, I know, 13 nights, it's just really down here. Most private events are just a single part of the park, Citizens Day is pretty big, but it occupies just that area of McCormick. But in certain special cases, we're doing multiple locations throughout the city, right? And each one of those.
It would be easier because I do like 100 special use permits.
Mhm,
And you should probably think of them as more as the hundreds that I do
mhm.
versus that one that is the exception.
Totally, totally, but again, keeping like consistent overall, and that these are just questions.
Oh, I
for
agree
me
with you,
too.
it should be consistent
Yeah.
overall, but when thinking of how to do a special use permit,
Mhm.
you guys keep referring to that one exception
Sure,
and really,
yeah.
I know, and it does.
I, we
But
also
all the
just-
hundreds of other ones.
Yeah.
I do like 6 a week.
Yeah,
They're all over here and they're all consistently similar.
right.
You know, that's
I
all.
also did one when I was on the Chamber of Commerce where we did an event that kind of occupied space just right up there at the Highway 30 in Columbia, but then we also had the things throughout the city, right, during that day. And so that's another example where I'm like, oh, so if we're using multiple parks, do we do, just one permit?
That's where your
that's-
site plan
Mhm.
and your maps come into hand.
Okay, perfect.
Because that one event we kind of raise around, how do we know how to plan for people in a nature park if we have no idea of how many could even begin to be there?
Right, you don't. You're guesstimating from your last year judgment. It's all just judgment at that point. I mean.
At some point, you need to have a rough idea.
Right. Gonna rain or.
Right.
Pouring rain, you're gonna have a lot less people.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of variables there, so
Oh,
you
yeah.
just gotta
You gotta plan for the worst case.
educate, guess, and plan for the worst, hope for the best.
So there are different provisions that are put in place because you put down more, like say, we have the one event, I fill out one application a year, I've done it for a long time, but it's like. Whether I put down. I expect 175 or 225 or 350, I mean, did the city go, oh, he's gonna have 350, we gotta do X or Y or? That's why I'm kind of curious, is that what happens?
Because
Certain levels,
go
you're
to a
certain.
certain level, then you're going to go over maybe the facilities and the bathrooms, so we'll make you rent porta potties to go above and beyond that. If you like have 75 versus 100, we'll make you get a dumpster because you're gonna go way over our resources as far as garbage is, that kind of thing.
Usually related to restrooms, trash.
Restrooms and trash, and then at some point parking.
Right.
Sure,
Like I have one right now where we have a huge event with a lot of people going on one side of the park, and then on the other side of the park, they want an event. Which people wise, that's not a problem, but parking wise, that's not a problem, that is a problem, and so we have to.
so that's where that number becomes critical in terms of trying to.
That is somewhat spelled out in here.
And insurance reasons, cause you
Um,
get more people, you
Right.
And,
get
you know,
issues.
there are other things that seem kind of vague. Like, there's, for a pre-event meeting, I'm not sure exactly what you're looking at for these things.
It's on the top of the other page, pre-event meetings are for if you're over 100 people, or if you're affecting traffic, it's indoor.
Uh, Yeah, that's a thing. It tells you why you need to pre-event meeting, but it doesn't really say, what you're gonna be looking at during that meeting.
So
So
we have a pre-event meeting agenda. Thought we did.
You have like a template for discussion?
yeah,
So at the pre-event meeting, so if you don't need a pre-event meeting, it's because you're either not over 100 people or you don't affect, and you don't affect traffic. If you do prompt a pre-event meeting, then we have people from other departments at the pre-event meeting, and they're gonna come with what they need to know from that event. And I send out to all those people from those departments that come. So we have Crystal from media, we have engineering that comes, we have public works that comes, we have parks that comes, we have, I don't.
It depends on the event. You
It's,
could have-
yeah, it depends on exactly, police,
Could involve Tad with the fire department.
exactly. So it depends on the event usually, but we always have at least engineering, media, public, all those,
We kind of use the permit application itself as a template.
Yeah.
To go over things, because it answers most of our questions, but. If it's a big event, the police might be here and they might say, hey, what about these intersections? What about if we need access, if the fire department can't get downtown with an ambulance? Those are all the things that need to be discussed that sometimes people just kind of forget about.
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking with this, it's kind of vague and it's from the applicants. So they know what they're getting in.
Right, and
Sounds like-
that's the whole purpose of the
Yeah.
pre-event, because it's way before their event, so we have plenty of time to address all these issues. And then we get multiple brains from different areas that are all thinking about their own things, which they should be,
Yeah.
and they work out really nice. I mean, for the big parade that we had, for the.
Yeah.
The parade, that was extremely helpful, and everyone in that group was extremely glad we had the meeting. It cleaned up a bunch of stuff up.
On a parade, do you have to notify each person that's the parade's going in front of
The businesses.
Yes.
Yes.
it, even residential?
Yeah, they even go, well, if it's gonna affect them getting out in and out of their street, yes, and they actually printed off. Flyers with maps and they personally handed it out, and knocked on every single.
They were.
Corners.
She did a great job with that.
And oftentimes, with these really big events, they're a repeat event, and so I get a copy of their last year's application, and that is sent to everyone that goes to the pre-event meeting beforehand. So they have kind of an idea of what they're going into and what went well, what didn't go well, and what to ask when they're going in.
Awesome.
How many of these a year do you guys do? Process? Do you
What
know?
applications or pre-event meetings?
So just applications for.
Applications,
More than you think, or more than I was thinking.
I mean, probably about 100 a year,
Okay.
but they're mostly just during the summer.
We're all crammed into.
They're all really cramped, so I think it's about, I think just in June, July, I definitely did over 60. And they all kind of fight over the same space.
Right.
I won't was keeping a tally and then
Do they still have the conditional use permit or is it just special use permit?
conditional use permit is something
That's totally different.
that's not mine.
That's not your,
Because conditional use permit is more for engineering and building, I wanna say.
I don't even really.
Because that rings a bell, but that rings a bell from back when I used to work for an engineering firm.
I used to get them kind of mixed up. Because their names are similar.
This was a special use permit they always used to come to us with when different groups wanted baseball or whatever.
That's an athletic field form, and that's different than this. I get those as well. So if you add those into that.
You're busy.
Thank you for all your hard work.
Yeah.
The one comment I was going to just put out there too, before we move on away from this section, to the location event information, because I know we've discussed before with a couple of these events that they are unsure of the estimated attendance, which, you know, based on many, many variables. But in the cases of these repeated events, things that are annual, things that are happening all of the time, I would think that it could be an appropriate option to base this year's estimated attendance on last year's actual attendance and put that in as an estimated
You can
attendance.
take an average of them, like
I've only
3
had
years
one.
history, average it out, see what it is.
Out of the 100 I've done it.
Yeah, but I
And
think
again, you
that
have
would
your
be-
variable of if it's raining and stuff.
absolutely,
I would think you'd want to go with the highest number of
We always try to go higher.
the 3 years.
They always try to go lower because it's make
Yeah.
it cheaper for them. We always try to figure, you know, just like Citizens Day in the Park. It's like, well, we'll probably have 20% more people this year.
Right.
It seems to be going up like crazy.
right.
Yeah.
But I think that would be a really excellent option instead of,
Free food, you won't have that problem.
That's right.
But Citizens Day in the Park gave me an estimation.
oh, good, okay, great,
I've never, now, only once have I had someone not give me an estimation.
okay.
Everyone else gives me an estimated number.
Most of them are really getting work with.
Yeah, so I think that would be a good option though, if you guys consider using, you know, again, just for like repeated events, if they know, oh, last year we had, you know, 300 people at this event, we're not really sure, but like, we can estimate that we have this much.
And sometimes try to ask questions, and when I give my rough estimates, I'll say like 3,000 to 5,000 people, because you just time zone, time zones, if it's a bad weekend, whatever.
Right.
You know, but there's just sometimes no way of knowing.
Right,
That's why I give a big variable, but I've never been able to verify it.
and there's only a couple of cases, or really only one specific, which I think there should be 2 cases where they require a specific amount of people equals a specific outcome, and that's in regards to the porta potties, which we'll get to in a little bit. But I think it should also pertain to the dumpsters, because the verbiage in the application process only states that over 100 they need a dumpster. And I think that should be changed as well. I think it should.
And we asked Hudson if they had kind of a method for that, and they don't, but if it goes over, 200-300 people, we kind of do that back ourselves.
Yeah, and I think having, again, just having a nice, like, across the board, I love the rubric that they have for the porta potties. And so if they don't have something already for dumpsters, I think that's something that we could easily put together.
If we have someone who has 100 people, they get one. We have someone who has the 300 people, they're not only getting one dumpster, they're getting one.
Right, right.
I have a question, say like for Sand Island, if. They have the sandcastle thing over there the other day. And are they under the same rules that apply here? That is a park?
Do they have extra outhouses out there, or?
Yeah,
No, I'm not sure on that. I don't know if
So-
Tina had anything over there or not.
The sandcastle is under Tina's general permit,
Yeah.
so.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Yeah, general permits.
Does what they want to.
I don't know how to word that. Yeah, I remember how that was
So
to me, but it has to do with the fact that Tina is kind of an employee of ours, so I don't know how to word it.
well, on Tina's permit, it just said Tina's events from May to November. And the sandcastle is an event from May to November.
City sponsored them.
No, it's under her company,
It's under the tourism.
which is E2C Tourism.
So she only has to fill out one application that covers several months worth of events. I understand that this is painful, and I'm so very sorry. And I don't mean to make it more painful. Okay. But there's been so many questions from so many people for so very long, right? And I don't like rustling feathers personally. It's very uncomfortable for me as well. But for clarity's sake, when people ask us questions, especially myself as the chair of the Parks and Trails Commission, and I have zero answers for them on some of these things.
Your answer guy for that is John Wall.
Agreed.
That is where it was brought to me, and that's where it stayed, and that's how that works. I don't know how to word it any different other than because of her involvement with the tourism and the way that she is reimbursed. I think John Walsh is the best guy to explain it. And it is different than what everyone else does.
Yes.
You don't really care for that, but
Right.
I have superiors.
Usually,
Fair and
usually I get a permit for each event and it explains what exactly goes on. for
Right.
each event.
Right. Okay. I will try not to ruffle you too much. I can't promise that I won't at all though. I'm trying. My next question that I had on this page, moving on from that is under section 3, public assembly, section number 4, describe certified company you will be using for security. Now, since this is a current hot topic, when is this required and what does that look like?
So, anytime that security is required, we do not volunteer city employees for security. So for instance, the Halloween town,
Including police.
include that,
Right.
right, and they're city employees, exactly.
Right.
So for instance, the Halloween town parade, at their pre-event parade,
Yes.
they had an employee of a company that was a certified
Yeah.
security company that came as part of so there was like 3 or 4 people
Yeah.
that represented them as an applicant.
Yeah.
And one of them was an employee from the security company they hired to do security for there. And he spoke on behalf of them on what their security procedures were gonna be and all that, and had questions for us.
So when do we require that security be present at the events? What are our requirements for that?
The number of people?
There's not, but we usually, it comes along as kind of common sense. If you're having a 4-year-old birthday party, or you're having
Right.
you're having a family reunion in McCormick Park that just happens to be 60 people,
Yeah.
which jumps into.
Yeah.
We're talking parades,
Yeah.
we're talking usually, again, it jumps into that 100 over
Okay.
and, involving, we're talking the bigger
Okay.
events that we're
Also,
required.
also one of the reasons that the police chief was put back on these special use permits to sign off on them.
Yeah.
Because they'll say, whoa, we can't police this. You need to have
Yeah,
private security because we don't have the manpower nor the time to do it.
yeah,
So that's another great thing for our pre-event meetings, because that is a big one that the police will ding on that every time once they see it, and that's good, because when he signs off on that, he's saying, yeah, you're fine,
yeah,
and
I would say pretty much anytime it signals a pre-event meeting,
yeah.
it's also gonna signal security.
So then, not to go there.
I
but
know you're going back to it. I know you.
I'm so sorry. Forgive me. But like, so say in the event, because we've had repeated issues, like say at 13 nights, right, where security was required, but there was no security, there's no security.
And that would normally be addressed in a pre-event meeting.
Yeah.
But for that application,
Yeah.
I was told that a pre-event meeting was not required.
Okay,
So what is the criteria when it's not recorded, when it is recorded?
so normally it would be 100 people,
Yes.
or when street closures are, so what you're saying is that
Different.
it's just different with just this one, and we don't have a valid excuse why.
Also have the explanation.
John Walsh will have, so let's invite John Walsh.
I would go to his, just ask him. Talk to you about it, I mean.
Yeah.
Well, this is just, these are questions that come up all the time,
All the time.
and we serve the people, and it's our responsibility to.
Well, we understand where you're going with it, it's just, really have a great way of explaining it to you.
Yeah, that's
If you're
okay.
getting it, so.
This is my first step of asking questions too, so I really
Just ask
appreciate your
away.
guys' patience,
Yeah.
and kindness with all of this.
Yeah.
Cause then it gives me an opportunity to serve not only my other, committee members, but the public, and then it gives next steps too for all of us to follow with these
Trust me,
questions.
it's a hot topic.
Yeah. Yeah, I
understand.
feel it. I apologize. All right,
I have another question about security.
Yes.
I mean, with security with police, they have the authority that has been invested in by the city to police people. And when you have a private company, what mechanism gives them the right to police people?
Well, they're not, obviously, they're not, you know,
The rest of the license bonded
Well-
security companies.
it
You
says
can't just
here,
say, your security, you go with somebody else.
I mean, there is a gray line there. I mean, it's not just,
right,
arresting and that's.
Yeah.
also-
they're providing security for an event, they're not policing
right.
citizens on the street.
Trying to keep
They're
the
making
event
sure-
clear, make sure a fight doesn't break out, make sure someone's not drinking too much, I guess, I don't know.
It's very different.
Yeah, and if they do need it,
I think
they're gonna call the cop, they're gonna call the police if it gets too bad.
I think everybody knows what a private security does for an event.
Absolutely, and in the special, or in the permit plan specifications, under this is on page 7 of that, later in the packet. Under safety plan, it specifically states that the applicant shall submit the names and background information for all traffic control and crowd control personnel. And that all such personnel must meet the following minimum standards in order to be approved. And this includes not having any felony convictions or misdemeanor convictions, having received reasonable minimal training in law enforcement, having on-the-job experience in law enforcement or experience in flagging for traffic.
That just tells me that there are, overlapping that in between the two.
Yeah,
And I still don't know what mechanism gives them authority on that. It's just, I mean, I don't know.
as far as like the private,
I mean, if they're, well.
the requirements for the training for the security
for the
personnel.
security,
Yeah.
they're gonna be, telling people what they can and cannot do at these events. Under what authority? So what's the mechanism of the authority?
I don't know specifically, but I do know that they follow specific guidelines as security personnel. I just don't know what those are.
Yeah, I don't know the rules on that either, but I would imagine that it would involve their judgment and their training and whether they can ask somebody to leave the event. Or if things escalate from there, then you get.
Yeah, they have guidelines
And you've got an
and
incident.
on when to escalate to the police.
Right.
It's just a curiosity to me.
Yeah. Get it.
Okay, any other questions on this page? Okay, then moving on to the next page, I did have a couple of questions here in the park use fee type. And I noted that there's only a couple of parks listed here. They don't include things like the Sand Island, it doesn't include parks like Nob Hill. So do we have, pay schedules for those or,
Sand Island is leased,
okay,
so I don't,
so
so I
I
don't,
go through him.
right, so I don't have anything to do with Sand Island.
Okay,
Nob Hill, I have never had someone call up and say, I want to rent Nob Hill.
right. Okay,
We only get Campbell, McCormick, Columbia View,
okay,
and once in the last year, have I had someone ask about Godfrey.
Godfrey, okay,
Mostly parks with structures.
okay,
Well, they want bathrooms and they want covered areas,
okay,
period.
okay.
If for some reason they did want a one-off park, then I would probably go, I would, charge a relatable amount.
Probably just by, whatever compares properly size wise and with facility wise.
Right. Right, because they're all, what, 35 to 40.
Yeah.
For those, the smaller parts, and then the Columbia View is 60, but that's including like the stage area, right?
Right.
Okay. And then the only other note then I had put down for myself for discussion is considering a fee scale that would be based on number of persons attending. And so I understand that these are like per day fee, but, and this is just my thought process, like a large group of people though is going to impact the park on a greater scale. And I'm talking greater than like 250 persons or, you know, greater than 300 persons versus, you know, the 50 to 100 person range.
So, fee changes were brought up, recently, but because I had just redone the application, which was holding tight to things that were just being shrugged off before,
Uh-huh.
we decided to not up or change the fees just yet.
Okay,
One, because that requires a whole nother ordinance change.
okay,
And two, because holding people's feet to the fire and making them follow the rules might ruffle enough feathers as it is.
Mhm.
So we would start with that challenge for a little while and then move on to.
And then move on.
increasing fees, yeah.
So with what you're saying, I agree with you, the more people, the bigger footprint, you're trampling grass, you're doing more, you have more.
Yeah.
parks, you're more.
yeah,
Kind of my thought process on the park use fee would be to say, okay, Campbell Park says $35 per day.
Mhm.
Okay, we'll put an up to 200,
right,
then go with percentage increase.
Yeah.
Is kind of my idea, so that if I get this permit, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have 400 people, it's like, oh, that's up to 200 people, well, if it's $35 for 200. I can expect to say I'm gonna pay $70,
Mhm.
and I think that's a fair way to do it. I mean,
yeah. Cause that's kind of
Give
what,
it, give it an up to number so that it's not, you know, oh, pay $35, I trample the whole park.
exactly. Yeah, so that's exactly what I was thinking is that, you know, the 50 to 250 people, we expect a certain amount of damage, a certain amount of facility use.
And I think most citizens are gonna understand that.
Yeah,
It's simple and it's, yeah, I like it.
yeah,
Well, I can't imagine that the city makes any money off of any of these fees that are paid because the amount of time and all the people that are
The
in
amount of-
pre-event meetings and what she's doing, putting this all together, all the, you know. There's no money that the park's getting for it, so.
All we're getting is a
Thanks.
piece of paperwork with some responsibility behind it of who we can blame if something goes wrong.
It probably actually costs money, I would assume, it probably actually,
You add up our hours.
yeah, you're out, yeah, out of everybody's hours that's involved in looking at these applications and the
yeah.
police has to look at it and sign, you know, that's just my 2 cents on it, so. I don't know if you're ever gonna raise the fees enough and then you really get an outcry from the public.
You would lose events because
Surprised.
people are saying,
I'm
I
already,
can't afford that. I
yeah,
can't
I'm
do it."
already getting, even from large events, just what we're charging right here saying, we can really afford to do this.
Trying to get some porta potties, a few more, like in a parade line is a lot of money for them and, you know.
For this, so.
Yeah, I can imagine. I don't know that you're ever gonna get the fees to a point to where you're gonna say, we're gonna recoup all the extra damage that was done to our parks from people
It's
traveling.
just a cost to
It's-
run the city and try to keep people,
Right.
you know, take care of things and have
Yeah.
some responsibility.
Exactly.
If you're not gonna cover the price of the trash we throw away every day,
Right.
No.
it's a lot.
Somebody dumped something in the trash over there the other day. I don't know, I think they were getting rid of some dead animals or something. People go in there and they dump stuff that, yeah, exactly, you know. Bad.
They have every morning. and all that.
I moved the dumpster away from the building, they probably wanted an idea, like, man, I couldn't have anywhere around it, I got 50 feet away, it was pretty bad. Bags of something in there, I don't think he had it
Okay,
violation or something.
any further questions or comments on this page of the application? Okay, and then on the next page, under,
Page 3 now.
yes, now they're numbered. So I don't know, are we missing things out of here or not? Cause now they're all of a sudden.
So the
numbered.
ordinance is never sent to.
Okay.
That's just there for you guys, and I copied and pasted that out of the ordinance,
Okay.
because otherwise you'd have every city ordinance.
Okay,
The application.
Okay.
These would be only, this application is only for events that take place within a park.
Yes,
So if there's an event.
well, no, city,
Event that-
any city property.
Okay,
So I get all the all the applications that are not only in the parks, but also in any city right of ways. So if they want, for instance, I had one who just wanted to do a block party, so they just wanted to shut down a little section of road in their neighborhood. That comes to me as well.
Yeah, well, it made me think about the bicycle ride that we put on, because we've always filled out a permit for that, but it's not like necessarily we're using, I guess we have started down here downtown at the Columbia View Park, but I was just
If
thinking,
it's in city boundaries, it comes to me.
yeah. I was just thinking,
So most of them are part of all of them.
yeah, I was just gonna say, because we're looking at the park use fee type, but yeah, there's a fee for other events that are not necessarily using a park, but their event takes place within city limits or something.
all right, so, and I plan to only stay on this for about another 8 minutes so that we can get through the rest of the agenda, so I don't think we're gonna get through the rest of this today again. And that's okay, just that we would leave ample time and we can get out of here by 6. So the only, note that I have on here, under the agreements and conditions, number 2, where it says applicant agrees to clean up garbage, refuse, and debris resulting from applicant's use in the designated park area. You must carry out garbage exceeding capacity of available trash cans in the park area. What are we doing as far as monitoring and enforcement of this?
So it's easier to do if it's like a huge event that puts down a deposit, because then they don't get their deposit back.
Okay,
And depending on the area, if it's the city streets, Dave Elder is the one who I talk to. And he's the one that goes out and checks and sees if it's okay enough
okay,
for me to contact them and give them their deposit back.
okay,
If it's within a park, then Buck is the one that tells me if it's agreeable or not.
okay,
If it's a smaller event, again, if it's in a park,
Mhm.
Buck will usually let me know, you know. That was hideous or not.
yeah,
But,
They're putting money down, they're usually pretty good about it.
and I've had some that weren't, it wasn't even a special use permit, and they're still really good about. Following the way, you know, if it was a birthday, they take the big buy box or like that, so.
Yeah.
The worst, not the worst, one of the bad things about it is if you have this time of year, you have an event on a Saturday. Or even a Friday afternoon, like CCMH just had their big party there, and there's a lot of people at that, and they're really good about cleaning everything up. They were always easy to work with, but they're on a Friday, we leave at 4:30. They're pulling out around 5 o'clock, maybe a little after, so they pretty much filled all our garbage cans. And they had a dumpster there. Our guys went down and helped them to unload all the cans, and it all worked out good, but. If everything's full, then for Sunday, you have another group come in, say is only 200 people. Well,
Yeah.
there's not one spot to put garbage.
yeah,
So that's why this pack it out is in there. It's a kind of a. Hey, we provide these, but we don't provide service on the weekends. You need to understand that. So in one full. Pull the whatever garbage you have, you taking it home with you. That's the agreement, and. That doesn't always get done. That's
Yeah.
probably the worst thing is when that happens for us. And then because birds get through it overnight. There's certain people that dig through it overnight, and then we have wind and we have hours of picking up
yeah,
random garbage. So that's why that's in there. Doesn't always work, but
yeah.
we don't know what else to do because we can't provide a weekend service and we can't put 200 trash cans out there. So
Right.
that's one of the issues with garbage.
Now and this is totally off topic, but not entirely off topic, but not related to special use permits. But is staffing, at least for sanitation purposes on the weekends, something that we could consider in the future?
Financially right now with this in the city, I don't think so. I could say no. I right now, no, but it could maybe be if it was a huge event, get special permission to pay someone overtime to come in if the need be, that could happen on occasion. Or we could try to modify a schedule during the week if an employee agreed to that and we had time for our union protected, we have to have so much time to change their schedule.
Yeah,
Otherwise, there's penalties for that, so it's doable. But as a full-time thing, I don't see it happening. It's just one of our challenges right now.
yeah,
And it's technically in the rules that they have to initial off on, even when they do just a small reservation. Like 10 people, 20 people, when they do that online by themselves without me, it's in there that they should be packing out their garbage if they bring a lot.
Okay.
So little Johnny's birthday party.
Yeah.
only 10 people is technically, if they make a lot of garbage, they're technically supposed to take that out.
and that's when they're renting like the gazebos or.
And there's, I mean, at McCormick alone, there's 3 opportunities every day in each gazebo.
Yes.
That's a possibility of 9 parties every day.
Yeah.
Weekend, that's just. Our fault.
We try to like at the CCMA, we try to get there right at the end of the day to empty everything and accommodate it to overlast, but mainly because it makes our job easier too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, any other questions, comments, or anything here on page 3?
I got a few things. I worry about number 3 if it's completely exhaustive of all the things that we're trying to cover. That's always weird. Number 4, the language, when it says when required, to me, it looks like, it opens up, things up when it could be a little more, the language could be better used to just say that it's all required.
Right, because we require insurance for everybody getting a special use permit.
It says
correct?
when required, so that gives it,
So is that something that we could consider like just striking the words
Want
when?
the when changed to a as required?
or it is required, not understood, and then leave the last part out. I'm just saying that because it actually leaves some ambiguity into the language, so there could be a way out of it. That's why I'm bringing it up.
So you're saying get rid of the when required and put in it is required at the beginning.
Yeah, something to that effect.
Okay.
Then I also had it says, about the risk of people moving picnic tables
Mhm.
and what about moving them back? It's just, leaving it the way that they found it, rather than saying that, when you move it, you say your own risk. Would like to see something about it being left the way that it was found, rather than have all the picnic tables in a circle and then somebody else comes along. Drag them apart.
And that is in section
That's number 7.
number 7. So the city is not.
Then I would imagine number 11, has to do with insurance, bouncy castles.
Yeah.
A lot of cities don't allow them.
I want a bouncy castle and a birthday party. Okay. Yeah, and it's fun.
How many times that's a deal breaker?
I'll bet.
Really mad and they cancel everything.
Okay, so then on number 7, for my notes for the final discussion on this. What you'd like to also add in, like, please return to original location.
Something that
Okay.
would be.
Yeah, I understood that more as like, don't touch them at all. But if you're going to at your own risk, so I don't know that
They can move them.
telling them to move them around again is good.
Yeah, because some people don't want them under the covers, some people want them under the covers depending
Right.
on what they're bringing with them, so
Right,
they do get shuffled around and I think it's fair. Normally it's not an issue.
Okay, so you guys don't care if they leave them where they lay or?
No, I think put something in that says.
Oh, yeah, to return to their original location, okay.
For them to move them to accommodate their weight.
Okay, great. Okay, cool. All right, and then it's 5:31, so I'd like to go ahead and pause here on this and move on to the rest of the agenda, if that's okay with you guys. I really appreciate everything from all of you. It's been really lovely. So then we're on action items for this upcoming month, really just those of you who are set to present next month on the BMX and skate park updates and McCormick Park updates, to just be prepared if there's anything to update us on. And I guess with the Japanese garden, neither Lynn nor Jerry are here. But I guess now I can reach out to them if it's just three of us, right? Because it's not a quorum in regards to, we have like almost a little subcommittee for the Japanese gardens in regards to putting together our update for next month. As far as communication, the program communications, since we're not having a meeting, it's going to have a quorum that we can communicate via email to put together like.
No, but when they're with Jerry and Lynn,
So we can prep our update for the next month. Are we allowed to communicate just the three of us via email?
Oh,
I don't know the legality of all of that.
Not a quorum.
not a quorum, so you should be able to do it. Yeah.
under 5.
Okay, okay, perfect. So then I'll reach out to them, just remind them as well. And then if you haven't reviewed the rest of the pack that we've now gotten these last 2 meetings, please review it and bring any questions, comments, concerns, or whatever to the next meeting as we go to finish these. And again, right now, I've been making notes of things that we're verbiage changes or these other discussions that we'd like to discuss further in depth. And at that meeting, I'll probably invite John Walsh to be would be interested in sitting and maybe he can answer some of our questions for us. And if not, then we can go forward from there. But if I'm going to make our lovely staff uncomfortable, then I will include the boss man. But he's lovely too. So staff report.
Where I shine. All right, so play structure at Columbia View Park, you're all aware that's being removed. And it is going to be saved. And so think about where you want it. She wants to get Camel Park. Okay. So if you've already thought about it, good. Gonna be interested to see if they can get it out without damaging it, because I've heard there's just multiple truckloads of concrete underneath that thing, so we'll see what happens. You mentioned the fire. We still deal with tons of vandalism lately. I don't know where these kids get their money for their spray paint, but they love it. There's been a lot of ripping the doors off of the restrooms at Campbell Park and ruining them. There's been a lot of drug use in the restrooms, lots of paraphernalia left in them. So we messed with kind of changing the timing of the doors being locked, but now we have women's softball starting at Campbell Park tonight. So, you know, they have to remain open, so I imagine we'll be getting more. It's becoming really commonplace. The police have been making a better presence, even better than they were before, which is helping, but they can't be everywhere at once. So that's a huge time that we spend is vandalism
Yeah.
of some sorts. You're right, yeah, the vandalism remover and paint and everything, it adds up in hours.
You know, is it happening like late at night, late evening, just as it gets
All
dark?
the time. I mean, a lot of it is at night. I'm sure the drug use stuff is at night because we have found some people in there on the floors in the mornings. That we're assuming we're doing it.
I've always wondered that. I've never seen one person with this can of spray paint doing graffiti
Right.
anywhere.
We get it reported to us down at McCormick a lot, just the other day, 3 girls, woman.
Seeing somebody or-
Room and 3 girls ran out
Oh,
and there's black spray paint everywhere and there's
One in the afternoon.
hands all over and it's right in the middle of the day. It's just like, wow, you just don't care.
somebody doing it all over the place.
Well, yeah, I mean, all of our signage everywhere has it all over it, so
Yeah.
that's still a pain.
I hate to say too, that barricade, at the top of the staircase has got all types of graffiti over it, and it should add references to police and everything else on the backside.
Older things on it, okay. Those are the ones we try to get off there pretty quick. So as I mentioned earlier, we're gonna send plans out to all of you about the DFW Memorial expansion. Which shows pictures of the flags, it shows. It's basically everything. I just thought you guys would want to be informed on that and. We're hoping to have that done by Veterans Day. We haven't started construction on it yet. It's coming soon, the start of it. It's gonna be super similar to Columbia City's flags. If you've never seen those at the Veterans Park, they're nice. I think they look good. We did get a summer helper finally. He just started today. Fall helper, I guess, but yeah, so that will help us. He'll be all over doing all kinds of stuff. We're hoping to get a lot of course, weed eating and things like that, but a lot of our structures in the parks, like our storage units, try to get new siding on those, get those painted, paint benches. A lot of those are in rough shape throughout all the parks, so that's gonna be in the works. You'll probably see them running around. I heard mention of the Japanese garden. I talked to Lynn about that. That was sprayed several weeks ago for the blackberries and it killed 3% of them.
Okay.
I'm gonna have the work crew go over and cut those berries down. And from what I've told from people that are smart about spraying it, it's good time to cut it down, let it grow a little bit, then hit it with spray and it'll suck it right down to the roots and get rid of it. I'm hoping to do that at the Japanese garden with the work crew and I'm hoping to do it up on 5th Street. You still have a mountain of blackberries there?
I'm just gonna have to talk to you, well,
Okay.
there's blackberries all over the place in the parks. What we'd really like to do between 5th Street and Nob Hill is to maybe every year pick an area and have you guys go in and just spot spray it so that we're on a rotation.
That's
Yeah, so we can talk about it later, same time, but that's something I was supposed to ask you about, especially with fall coming up here. Usually we look at that you want to spray sometime in September for a lot of your blackberries, because that's when blackberries are sucking most of their moisture
right.
back in and you get most effective killing.
Talking about blackberry, gosh. I just got a Godfrey Park on the back edge on 2nd Street. It's an overrunning the sidewalk there.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
We'll look at it. I know people like to pick those and eat those there, so I don't know, that might be a cut rather than a spray. So people have some place to pick the berries, because people.
I'm just walking by the,
Okay, good to know.
Now, do we mark with any kind of signage that we spray certain areas of the
We
blackberries?
usually mark with, put a stake in the ground with a little sign that says that we sprayed
Okay,
or,
like do not pick.
yeah, we'll have it up for a certain amount of time. Of course, they get pulled out and thrown in the creek.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we sign everything the best we
Okay.
can. A lot of times it'll be just a blanket sign at the entrance to the park.
Okay.
Warning that these things have been used.
Okay,
Let's see, during this heat, we are running a modified time for our parks and 90% of our public works employees, they're working from 6 to 2:30. Usually like today afternoon, we're taking extra breaks, things like that, so that we don't have any heat stroke or any issues like that. And so far, it's been working fine. We did it last year too.
awesome.
Other than that. Same old, same old.
Thank you. All right, counselors report.
All right. Yeah, I'm awake. Sorry I couldn't be there with you. My wife is working and my kids had piano lessons and taekwondo and all kinds of stuff going on. So I've been running them around. I think Buck covered probably about half of the stuff that I wanted to tell you guys about. So the Columbia View Park Playground, McCormick Park Veterans Memorial. Another project that's underway is the Gateway Project for downtown, which is kind of a decorative art feature that's going to go across South First. There is I noticed the latest design in the most recent city newsletter. So if you're interested, check that out. I don't think it's 100% finalized yet, but take a look at it and see what you think. The only other thing, and I already had this on my mind too before you brought it up, Paul, but is the fire prevention. So just this week, somebody on Facebook was asking, is smoking allowed in our city parks? And I think we could do a better job about letting people know that no, there's no smoking. We just got back from Prineville, spent some time in some of their parks, really nice park system. And they're not shy about putting signs up all over the park that I took a picture of it because I thought this would be nice, but it says, welcome to our tobacco, e-cigarette, and drug-free parks. They had them by the splash pad. They had them by the bench areas. But again, I don't think they have people running around destroying things like we do here. So, but I would like to see some more no smoking signs around because I don't know, as it was mentioned earlier, people are smoking at softball games. They're smoking at 13 nights, and yeah, all of our city parks are smoke free. So, I think that's about all I had. Is there any questions that you guys have or anything that you want me to bring to council this week?
Yeah, that project that the city's doing on, was it Gable Road there, are they putting any sidewalks to link up the sidewalks on Sykes to Columbia, or is that just a water? You know, I mean, I noticed, I didn't see what they're doing. It probably has to do with something with the drainage in that area because it always
Nope.
floods.
Just that little section that's closed there between Sykes and Gable.
Yeah, I didn't know that if it had anything to do with adding sidewalk. I know we talked about that in years past of trying to put a sidewalks between Columbia Boulevard and Sykes Road. Now that Sykes has sidewalks all the way on it, it'd be nice to be able to link that up when people are out walking, have a nice loop there, but I didn't know if it was for that project.
Yeah, I do believe sidewalks are going in there.
Oh, okay,
North side only.
okay,
North side only.
okay, cool, that's good to know.
But no, thanks for all you do, guys.
Thank you. All right. In regards to discussion items, I have one discussion item that I would like to have participation with. We have received 2 applicants for Parks and Trails Committee persons, and so I was or commission, excuse me, and so I would like to discuss creating an interview committee of 3 persons to interview them and make recommendation for approval for the commission. And so do we have anybody who would like to volunteer to be on the interview committee for this round?
Nope.
Probably give somebody else a chance. If nobody else wants to, yes.
Okay.
Have you already done this process before?
Yeah, so we did with him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we're just following the standard, like,
What you did?
yeah, the standard protocol, and then after this one, we just brought it back as just a discussion and a confirmation vote among the rest of the board, but following the guidelines, there's a 3-person interview panel.
Interview them and just meet at Starbucks or Burgerville or
We did
something?
here.
Oh, you did it here.
We're super official.
Well, you don't necessarily have to be, or
No,
you can just meet at Starbucks or whatever.
yes, she was saying that yeah.
Okay.
It would be better if we sat up there and you had somebody.
Make them
chatting
so uncomfortable. Then I arranged the tables for us and everything in here.
The planning commission gets to sit up there at them fancy chairs.
Okay, so Scott, Howard, and then I can do it as well, if that's all right with you guys. And so, would someone like to, make a motion?
A motion for our subcommittee, we're looking at
Formation of the,
formation of our subcommittee for looking at.
to interview the current application.
To interview current applicants.
I second that.
Okay, all in favor of Scott, Howard, and myself?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Aye.
You're opposed?
They're both ways to go into.
Oh, you'd be a curmudgeon in the group, you know? Sometimes I gotta vote no just to be clear.
Okay, and then, because I like to tidy things up,
Can we pick a day to interview
What would be-
our current applicants?
Uh,
The 28th.
yeah, I do so.
That's in 2 weeks. That should be enough notice. Would that work for you?
Time is the question. And can we get, will the applicants be available at that time?
Right.
The next,
We can invite them to.
No, Carl.
Yeah. So what do you think? Would you guys like to do Monday, the 28th at like 1 p.m.?
Sure.
Is that okay with you guys?
I'll go home and check my calendar, but at this time I see no problem. 1 o'clock.
yes. And then, can you,
Check that this room's.
Yeah, can you check to see if this room is available?
You could do them over at her office in the lunchroom over there,
I don't even know where that's at. Field trip.
right on the corner of Oregon Street and Deer Island Road.
Oh, yeah.
It's small. I mean, you 4 chairs in there and 2 tables.
So far, it looks like the 28th is available for the computer.
okay, so let's go ahead and book that if we can.
Remind me again just before then, but.
Yes, or, yes,
Also assuming that both these applicants don't work during the day.
Yeah, that's,
One was retired, I saw, but okay, what about the other one?
And if they're unavailable, then we can. At least do the one interview and
How long do you want the room for?
if we're doing both applicants, I would say 2 hours.
questions are you asking?
An hour and a half.
Like, I'd honestly say we were here for probably almost an hour.
They just sweat it out, huh?
They're all yes, no.
But like we had time to prep, do the interview, and then converse afterwards. So I'm thinking if we reserve the room for a total of 2 hours. I don't expect the interview itself would take that long, but I'd also hate to rush it and have someone else trying to get in here. Does that make sense? Give us ample time to.
If they ended up with somebody else that was that pressure, let us know and we can be amenable to
Right.
do something different.
okay, and then if we could send out an invite to the applicants, to meet us there at that time, that would be great.
Okay, are there any other discussion items?
Yep, quickly, while we got the next work party coming up at Nob Hill or on up the street right away for 9th of September, I think.
You know, on the Facebook.
Yep, yep.
When is it?
I believe the 9th, Saturday the 9th.
They asked me about that. They thought it was this weekend.
So I'll be working along the 5th Street right away for that. And we got some more plantings we're gonna do in that area. Also been starting to have a few more, I'm almost gonna say that are electric bikes allowed in our parks?
So
Because we got somebody causing a lot of damage with burnouts, like freshly gravelled trail. 2 inches deep, 15, 20 feet long, and I'm constantly patching up.
I don't know that any bicycles are allowed on any of the trails.
I didn't think so.
I would think so.
I think we
So
have-
food for thought, we don't have to dwell on it more
Yeah.
now, you know, but that's another one I want to talk about. The other one too is that eventually we're gonna have to start talking about a little bit more about how Nob Hill is gonna be wrapped up into things. If you start seeing the brand new, the trail they're talking about, there's gonna be a bluff trail that goes all the way out there. It's gonna have lights, it's gonna be paved. There's a whole bunch of work that's gonna be going on. And so eventually, I think we need to start. That could be one of our biggest growth areas for usage in a park, because once that trail gets paved, we're gonna start getting even more people. And so we have to start thinking about how those people are gonna interact with the park. You know, I'm noticing a lot more people are going out onto the bluff where we have a Camas meadow.
Yeah,
And, you know, I mean, I used to think, oh, summertime, there's nothing to worry about. But if they're walking across the actual rock where it's shallow dirt, that is creating an impact
yeah.
in those areas. So that's something we're gonna have to start thinking about, you know.
Are you thinking maybe like, kind of maybe not fencing, but kind of some
I
barrier?
would like to try to start off with signage. I mean, me and Caroline differ on some of that, that someday I could see that in some areas there, we may have to have like a split rail fence to make
Yeah.
a point, like, you really don't go out there. It's not really a good area to be.
What about facilities like a single restroom or something like that?
You know, that's kind of a hard one, because I don't know if we'd have sewer or anything in that area, you know.
Whole plant right there.
Yeah, you got the whole. I mean, we may have water down there too. You've been doing a lot of watering again in the park.
Yeah.
You know, eventually, I think that we can think about, once that's all done and we see what the landscaping looks like, we're gonna have to be thinking about such things as. I think that would be another place for one of our larger kiosks to happen right there, because that railroad tie staircase coming up, I think is gonna become a huge focal point as that waterfront gets developed. That we need to start having some thoughts about exactly how we wanna see some of that come together, what our visions of a nature park would be.
Mhm.
But that we can save that for another meeting
Be nice to see a detailed plan of it, of what you're proposing.
down there. Oh, yeah, way out there. Yeah. And actually, I want to talk about this as soon as we're done here about a couple of things. I think that's about it for now, since we're getting close on time.
Awesome. Anybody else? All right, without further discussion items, and we can adjourn the meeting. Thank you guys so much.
Were you too locked up? I'm not-